I'm Tessa, I'm 31, and my cousin faked a life-threatening illness just to steal the spotlight, so I let her choke on it. If you've ever been through something like this, comment below and subscribe. You're not alone. It started with a phone call that pulled me right back into a family I'd been trying to distance myself from for years. I was sitting on my couch, watching reruns of the Great British Bake Off, wearing sweatpants with holes and a hoodie that smelled faintly of garlic fries from the night before. A peaceful, lazy Saturday. My cat, Oliver, was snoring on my lap. Everything was exactly how I liked it, quiet, simple, safe. Then my phone buzzed, and I saw Aunt Marlene's name light up the screen. I almost didn't answer. We weren't exactly close. But something told me to pick up. "Tessa, sweetie," she said, voice trembling. "I don't want to scare you, but it's about Alana." Alana. My cousin. My beautiful, exhausting, manipulative cousin. Apparently, she was sick. Very sick. Something autoimmune, possibly lupus. She'd been fainting, losing weight. They were doing tests. The doctors were concerned. Aunt Marlene's voice cracked as she said it, like she was preparing for a funeral that hadn't happened yet. "She's asking for you," she said. "She wants to see you." My chest tightened. I hadn't spoken to Alana in nearly 2 years, not since the baby shower incident. She'd accidentally told everyone at my sister's shower that I'd had a miscarriage a few months earlier, something I'd confided to her in a rare moment of vulnerability. She framed it like she was trying to comfort me. "I just want you to know you're not alone. Tess has had struggles too," she had said, patting my arm like she was doing me some kind of favor. I left that day in tears and never spoke to her again, but now she was sick. Dying, maybe. It's incredible how quickly guilt can override common sense. "Where is she?" I asked, already slipping my feet into sneakers. Alana lived in a 2-bedroom townhouse about an hour away in Tacoma. I'd seen it once, during her brief stint as a lifestyle blogger. She had started a YouTube channel called Lana's Light and filmed morning routines that involved lemon water, gratitude journaling, and $3,000 facial tools. The content was fake, like everything else with her, but she had the look, and for a while, she even got sponsorships. When I walked in, I expected to find a woman wasting away in bed, pale and fragile. What I saw instead was a perfectly curated scene. Alana was lying on the couch in cashmere pajamas, a soft pink blanket pulled up to her chest. Candles flickered on every surface. A stack of unopened books sat on the coffee table next to a crystal water bottle and a small mountain of sympathy cards. She looked up at me with big, watery eyes. "Tess," she whispered, like it physically hurt her to speak. "You came." My eyes scanned the room, then dropped to her. Her skin looked dewy, not sick. Her lips were lined with pink gloss. Her hair, still the same wavy blonde she'd always been praised for, was pulled back in a loose braid, strategically messy. She looked like an actress playing sick girl in a Hallmark movie. I hesitated. "How are you feeling?" She sighed dramatically, like she was ready for her Oscar. "Some days are okay. Others, I can barely get out of bed." "Have the doctors confirmed anything?" "They're running more tests." She shifted to prop herself up with one elbow. "It's probably lupus. Or MS. Or maybe something even rarer." She said it like she hoped it was something rare. My stomach twisted. Alana had always needed to be the center of attention. I remember when I got my first publishing deal, a small local press, but still something I dreamed about since I was a kid, and she accidentally announced her engagement at the celebration dinner. No ring. No date. Just, "Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. Jason proposed. I think we'll get married on the Amalfi Coast." They broke up 2 weeks later. I had stories like that for every year of my adult life. But now, here I was, sitting on her plush pink couch, listening to her talk about how tired she was, how lonely, how misunderstood by her friends who don't know what it's like to live with a ticking time bomb inside your own body. I wanted to believe her. I did, but then she started posting, and that's when I knew something was off. Her Instagram became a digital shrine to her suffering, photos of 4 bags, filtered through vintage film tones. Close-ups of her face, cheeks hollowed with contour makeup, lips pale, captioned with things like, It's not always the visible wounds that hurt the most. Broken heart hashtag invisible illness hashtag lupus fighter hashtag warrior ween. Videos of her crying softly, barely holding back sobs, saying things like, "I don't know if I'll see my next birthday, but I'm trying to stay positive. For my family." I was tagged in one of them. Just a passing mention, my cousin Tess came to see me. It meant everything. You really learn who your people are when you're dying. The comments flooded in. You're so brave. Praying for you, Angel. Don't give up. Your cousin must be so lucky to be near your light. And suddenly, the sympathy packages started arriving, cards from strangers. Donations through Venmo. Someone launched a GoFundMe called Help Alana Heal. Within a week, it raised over $12,000. That's when I started paying attention. She had no prescriptions. No pill bottles. No medical records in sight. Every time I asked about her doctor, she got vague. "Oh, I'm switching clinics." Or, "They lost my blood work. I'm going somewhere new next week." One day, I dropped by unannounced. She answered the door in leggings and a sports bra, mid-Pilates, sweating lightly with a green smoothie in hand. "Oh," she said, caught off guard. I was trying some gentle movement. "The doctors said it's good for circulation." She quickly pulled the blanket back over herself and dimmed the lights. I nodded, smiled, sat through another hour of her monologue about trauma and transformation and how she'd found God again through pain. I said nothing. I just listened, but inside, I started planning. If she wanted to play sick, I'd let her. I'd let her play the part all the way to opening night and make sure the entire world had a front row seat when the truth came crashing down. Because here's the thing about attention. Once you've got it, you'd better be ready to keep it. And Alana? She didn't know the first thing about what the spotlight does to liars. Alana and I were born 6 months apart, me in December, her in June, and from the very beginning, we were compared like matching dolls in a sad family catalog. Every holiday, every barbecue, every forced Easter photo was another reminder that she was the sparkle and I was the sturdy one. Even when we were little, it was obvious who the family adored. Alana was the golden girl. Blonde curls, dimples, a giggle like Belle's in a Disney cartoon. I was the quiet brunette in the corner with an overbite and a book I wouldn't put down. I didn't speak much when I was younger, mostly because when I did, no one really listened. Not like they listened to her. I still remember my 4th grade spelling bee win. I'd practiced for weeks, even skipped watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch to study flashcards. When I finally won, I ran to my mom, beaming, holding my little paper certificate like it was an Olympic medal. She hugged me quickly, barely glancing at it before saying, "That's so great, Tess. Did you see Alana's new headshot? She might get cast in Annie this summer." Just like that. My win became her footnote. That was the pattern. I worked in silence. She performed in front of crowds. And the world kept clapping for her, while I stood by, swallowing my envy like sour gum I couldn't spit out, but I wasn't bitter. Not then. Not really, because Alana and I were close, in our own twisted way. We shared secrets. Slept in the same twin bed during sleepovers. She'd braid my hair while I told her ghost stories. She called me her favorite person whenever someone else pissed her off, and honestly, I think I loved her for real. Deeply, the way only kids can love someone who hurts them without knowing it, but the older we got, the worse it got. By high school, it was like living in her gravitational pull. Every room she walked into tilted toward her. She wore the cheerleader uniform. I joined yearbook. She got prom queen. I got perfect attendance. She threw tantrums that made my aunt cancel vacations. I silently cleaned up after my dad's hangovers and didn't tell a soul. When I turned 18, I got a part-time job at the library and started saving for college. Alana got a car, not just any car, a white convertible Beetle with a pink steering wheel cover and custom license plate that said Lana 4 EVA. Her mom posted a video on Facebook of her reaction to the surprise. She screamed, cried, hugged her dad. It went mini-viral for a day. Over 100 comments from relatives, friends, even teachers saying things like, "You deserve it, sweet girl," and "So proud of you." I got a used Corolla 2 years later with my own saved money and no applause. Still, I didn't hate her. I honestly believed the family didn't mean to overlook me. I just wasn't the type you make a fuss over, but when we hit our 20s, things started to shift. I found a career. Something real. Graphic design wasn't glamorous, but I loved it. I started building a portfolio, freelancing, then landed a full-time job with a creative agency. My first business card felt like a trophy. I posted it on Instagram with a proud little caption. Not fancy, but mine. 3 hours later, Alana posted a photo of her in a hospital gown with the caption, "Emergency room visits suck, weary face, but thankful for life. God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers." She got 423 comments. People asking what happened. People praying. I texted her to ask if she was okay. Oh, she replied. It was just a stomach thing. I'm fine now, red heart, but it was scary. It became a pattern. Whenever someone else in the family achieved something, a graduation, a wedding, even a new job, Alana had a crisis. Sometimes vague health scares. Sometimes dramatic breakups. Once, during our cousin's baby shower, she claimed she thought she was pregnant too. She even cried in the bathroom for a solid 10 minutes. No one even remembers what color the cake was that day, just that Alana sobbed into the punch bowl, and I still didn't pull away, because I'm a fool. I believed that if I was just patient enough, kind enough, understanding enough, she'd stop. She'd grow up. She'd realize she didn't have to compete to be loved, but then came the lowest blow. I'd had a miscarriage. 6 weeks along. Barely anyone knew. Not even my parents. I didn't want the fuss, the pity, the whispered conversations. I had told one person. Just one. Alana. We were at my sister's baby shower. The one where everyone knew I'd been trying. I pulled her aside and told her, mostly just to get it out of my chest. She held my hand, nodded, wiped a tear away. "You're so brave," she whispered. And then, 5 minutes later, she stood up and made a toast. "To all the women here today," she said, her voice shaky. "And to my cousin Tessa, who's gone through so much lately. You don't know what she's been through. But I do. And I just want to say, she's a warrior." I froze. My brain stopped working. I remember the sound of forks hitting plates. The confused looks. My mom turning to me with concern. "What happened?" she whispered. I left before dessert. I didn't speak to Alana again after that, until the sickness. When I came back into her life, I came carefully. At first, I thought maybe this was it, the moment she would change. The trauma that would humble her. Maybe she finally wasn't faking, but it didn't take long to see the performance. The filtered misery. The curated vulnerability. She had learned how to package pain for attention, and the audience was buying it. Her GoFundMe hit $15,000 in 2 weeks. She started doing live streams, soft piano music in the background, her voice all breathy and raw. "I don't want to die. I just want people to remember me as someone who tried." I watched, horrified, as strangers sent her money. My aunt cried daily. My uncle shaved his head in solidarity. My mom posted about the strength of our precious Alana. And not a single person asked to see a diagnosis, because why would they? Who questions the girl in the hospital gown? But I did. I started visiting more. Quietly. Watching. Asking careful questions. I searched her medicine cabinet. Nothing but vitamins and melatonin. I checked her fridge. Full of gluten-free pizza and LaCroix. One day, she forgot I was coming and answered the door in full makeup, hair curled, doing a try-on haul for a brand that had just sponsored her healing journey. That night, something snapped inside me. She wanted attention. Fine, she could have it, all of it, but I'd make sure that when the spotlight got hot, when the lies got too thick, when the questions came, she'd have nowhere to hide. Because I wasn't the quiet cousin anymore. I was watching. I was waiting, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of being seen. The lie snapped wide open on a Tuesday morning. It started small, like most big betrayals do. I was at Alana's again, supposedly helping her organize her new medications. She told me she was starting immunosuppressants, some serious-sounding cocktail of drugs that made her tired, nauseous, sensitive to light. She asked if I could help her sort them into one of those Monday to Sunday pill containers. I showed up with coffee, still trying to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, I was being paranoid. That maybe there was something real behind all this drama and Instagram oversharing, but what I found on her kitchen counter wasn't medication. It was gummy vitamins. Sleep aid gummies. One bottle of magnesium. And something labeled colon detox tea in cursive font, like a yoga studio threw up on it. Where's the rest of it? I asked gently, holding up a bright pink bottle that promised flat tummy results. Alana looked up from her phone, blinking slowly. What do you mean? The medications, I said. The new ones. You said they started you on the real stuff this week. Oh, she said, sitting up straighter on the couch. Yeah, they're in the cabinet. Those are supplements I take with them. I opened the cabinet, nothing but expired Advil, an unopened bottle of melatonin, and half a box of cold medicine. Not even prescription ibuprofen. She stood behind me, arms crossed. I had them in my purse last night, she added quickly. I forgot to bring them back in. You keep your immunosuppressants in your purse? Sometimes I forget. It's all overwhelming. And for a moment, I almost gave her that out, but then I saw the Instagram live from the night before, the one where she cried about how hard the injections were, how sore her legs were from the shots. She even showed a band-aid on her thigh, except it was on the wrong leg, and when I asked her about it, she stuttered. Changed the subject. Told me I was stressing her out. I left that day with a twisted knot in my gut, the kind that doesn't go away even after 2 glasses of wine and a 3-hour doom scroll. Something in me had finally shifted. I wasn't going to just wait for her to implode anymore. I was going to prove it. Step 1. I started documenting photos of her meds, screenshots of her posts, videos of her doing yoga when she claimed she was bedridden, messages where she contradicted herself, texting me about driving to Target while posting about being hospitalized. Step 2. I made friends with her nurse. Well, not her real nurse, because she didn't have one. But a woman named Becca who followed Alana on Instagram and had commented under almost every post. Praying for you. Stay strong, sweet girl. That kind of stuff. Becca was a nurse practitioner in Oregon, and after a few messages back and forth from a burner account I created, I asked her what she thought about Alana's symptoms. She says she's on methotrexate injections for lupus, I wrote. But also posts videos doing spin class the next day. Becca replied within the hour. That makes no sense. MTX wipes you out. No responsible rheumatologist would clear someone for that level of activity. We messaged for days. I fed her more inconsistencies. The water bottle full of green juice labeled Chemo Cleanse. The party photos Alana was tagged in, then quickly untagged herself from. The makeup tutorials posted hours after she claimed to be vomiting all night. She's faking it, Becca wrote one night, blunt and tired. And it's disgusting. I sat there staring at the screen, the final puzzle piece clicking into place. It wasn't just me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't bitter. She really was faking it. For attention. For praise. For money. And that's when I found the email. I wasn't snooping. Okay, I was. But barely. I was using Alana's laptop. She asked me to help her respond to some GoFundMe thank you notes because she was too weak to type, and I clicked into her email to copy someone's address. The tab was already open. Inbox full of subject lines like, "You're in our prayers, Red Heart," and "Sending love from Canada." And there it was. An email to a friend named Kelsey. Subject line, "Ugh, it's working. I shouldn't have opened it. I did anyway. Kels, I feel gross even saying this, but the more I lean into the sick girl vibe, the more they donate. I haven't even done anything. Just cried a little and posted a pic of the hospital bracelet I kept from last year. I know it's messed up. But also they love it. They want me to be tragic. You should see my aunt. Tess? She's eating it up. Bringing me snacks and vitamins like I'm in hospice. Anyway, I'm not proud. But I'm finally getting the attention I always wanted, and $14,000 isn't nothing. Love you. Lana PS, let's do drinks soon. If I go out in a hoodie and no makeup, they think I'm being brave. I froze. There are moments in life that carve you open so deeply that you never fully heal, and reading that email was one of mine. She knew I was being sincere. She knew I cared. She weaponized it, used my empathy like a tool in her performance. I wanted to scream. Cry. Throw her laptop across the room. Instead, I took a screenshot. Then I emailed it to myself. Then I left. For 3 days, I didn't answer her texts. She messaged me, "Hey babe, can you grab more oat milk if you're coming over? Missed you today. Hope you're okay, red heart, Tess? Are you mad at me? You're not ghosting me, right?" The guilt tried to creep back in because that's what it always did. That was her superpower. She made you feel bad for doubting her, but this time I held firm because now I knew exactly what I was going to do. She wanted the spotlight. I'd make sure the whole stage collapsed around her. I wasn't going to confront her privately. No. That would give her a chance to spin it, to fake tears, to gaslight, to say she was just venting to a friend, to claim she was misunderstood. I needed something louder, something public, something she couldn't twist. So I waited, and then her birthday came. Alana's birthday was an event. Always had been. Theme parties, balloons, handcrafted hashtags. One year she rented a pony. This year it was healing princess vibes. She rented out a garden cafe downtown, all fairy lights, pink cocktails, vegan canapes, live violinist. She wore a silver tiara and a dress that probably cost more than my rent. Her caption, "So grateful to be alive to celebrate another year." Chronic illness tried to steal my light, but I'm still shining sparkles. #Lupus warrior, #survivor, #miracle baby. Guests posted videos of her laughing, twirling, making a toast about resilience and the power of sisterhood. She didn't invite me, but I went anyway, and I brought Becca with me. We walked in during dessert. I wore a simple black dress. No makeup. Just truth. Becca wore her scrubs. Dramatic, maybe, but effective. People turned, stared. Alana's smile faltered when she saw us. The music dipped. Her eyes started. "Tess," she asked, voice already trembling. "What's going on?" I stepped onto the makeshift platform they'd used for photos. Took the mic from the DJ. "Hi," I said, calm and clear. "Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure you all saw something." I held up my phone, tapped the screen, and read her email out loud, word for word. The silence after I finished reading the email felt like a vacuum. It swallowed every murmur, every breath, every clink of fork on plate in that pastel garden cafe. Even the violinist stopped playing mid-note, his bow frozen in midair like he wasn't sure whether to keep going or bolt. Alana's face had gone paper white beneath her highlighter and blush. Her tiara caught the light just slightly as she took a step back, eyes wide, frozen like a deer in couture. "Tessa," she whispered, voice thin. "What are you doing?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I looked out at the guests' friends, distant relatives, influencers, wellness, buddies with rings on every finger and perfect latte foam pictures on their Instagram feeds. Some of them looked confused. Others looked horrified. A few had their phones out, already recording, and then Becca stepped forward, calm and devastating. "My name is Becca," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm a nurse practitioner. I've been following Alana's content for months because I believed her. I sent money. I sent supplies. I even tried to connect her with actual specialists in the lupus community. But as someone who treats real autoimmune patients every single day, I'm here to say that nothing she posts adds up." Someone gasped. Another whispered, "Wait, what?" Alana raised her hands like she was about to start conducting a symphony of lies, but I kept going. "She told me she was on methotrexate injections," I said, my voice cutting clean through the silence. "She told you she was on chemo, but she never had prescriptions. No appointments. No lab results. Just selfies and captions." And now, I pulled out my phone again. Now she's admitting right here in this email that it was all about attention and donations. The screen glowed in my hand as I showed the message again, her words laid bare in front of everyone she'd fooled. And then I said something I hadn't even planned. "Do you know what's worse than pretending to be sick for money?" I asked, stepping down from the platform. "Making the people who actually love you think they're losing you. Making them cry. Making them rearrange their lives. Making them question themselves." I looked at her then, really looked. She was still frozen, still pretending to be the victim, but the mask was slipping. "I took care of you," I said, my voice cracking just slightly. "I believed you. And you looked me in the eye while you lied. Over and over. That was the moment I walked away. But the fallout, that didn't end when I left the party. By the time I got home, 3 clips from the party were already circulating online. The email. Becca's statement. My short monologue with a trending hashtag #FakeSixScandal. By midnight, Alana Wellness was trending on Twitter. Screenshots of her GoFundMe page were plastered across Reddit threads and Facebook groups. There were split screens comparing her hospital pics with product placement ads she filmed the same week. Side-by-side comparisons of the hospital bracelet she kept reusing with dates from 2 years ago, and the worst part, the comment sections were vicious. I knew I'd started it, but I hadn't expected the internet to pile on with such glee. People like this are why real patients don't get believed. I donated $50 to her last month. I feel sick. She better be prosecuted for fraud. My inbox was flooded with messages, some thanking me, some demanding I give updates, a few calling me a jealous hag who clearly just hated a pretty girl getting attention. And Alana, she went silent. No posts. No videos. No stories. Her last Instagram post, still up for a few hours after the party, was a photo of her hugging a bouquet of lilies, eyes closed, captioned, "If this is my last birthday, I'm glad it was surrounded by love." Cherry Blossom, it had 1,287 comments before she disabled them, and then she disappeared. No one saw her for a week, not her followers, not her friends, not even her mom. And that's when the guilt started to seep in. I didn't expect to feel bad, but I did, not because I thought I was wrong, because I wasn't. I know I wasn't, but because I'd lived through what it meant to be invisible for so long, and now, in exposing her, I'd become the one who couldn't stop being seen. My phone never stopped buzzing. Every message notification twisted in my stomach like a reminder that once you unleash the truth, you don't get to control what it does to people. Becca texted me a few days later, "You did the right thing." This wasn't just a lie, it was theft. From people who trusted her. She wasn't wrong, but I couldn't shake the image of Alana's face the moment I read her email out loud, not shocked, not even angry, just exposed, like someone who'd been caught without their armor. The next time I saw Alana, it was unplanned. I'd gone to the grocery store, just trying to get milk and ramen, when I turned down the frozen aisle, and there she was, standing by the microwave meals, hood pulled up, sunglasses on, clutching a basket like it might disappear. She saw me before I saw her, and she didn't run, she didn't scream. She just stared at me like she didn't know whether to beg for forgiveness or slap me across the face. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. Then finally, she said, "Are you happy now?" Her voice was hoarse. Hollow. Like someone who hadn't slept in days. I looked at her, this girl who used to glow at the center of every family photo, and all I could see was someone drowning in the consequences of their own performance. "No," I said honestly. "I'm not happy." She blinked. "You ruined me," she said, too loudly. An older man near the ice cream turned to look. "I lost everything." "You ruined yourself," I replied quietly. "I just stopped protecting you from it." She opened her mouth, probably to argue, probably to cry, probably to start a monologue she'd rehearsed a dozen times, but then closed it again. Instead, she asked, "Why'd you do it?" I felt a bitter laugh rise in my chest, but I didn't let it out. "Because I loved you," I said. "And you broke that." Over and over. "And this time. I wasn't going to let you walk away without consequences." She stared at me like I'd slapped her, and then she turned, left her basket on the floor, and walked out the automatic doors without looking back. I stood there for a long time, longer than I should have, and then I walked out too. No milk. No ramen. Just silence. A few days later, the GoFundMe was taken down. The donations were frozen pending an investigation. Several of the donors were pressing charges. One person claimed to be pursuing a class action lawsuit. Alana's sponsorships dropped her. 3 wellness companies issued statements about parting ways with content creators who violate community trust. She issued a notes app apology, 2 paragraphs long, vague, and cowardly. Something about miscommunication and mental health struggles, and how she never meant to mislead anyone. No one bought it. It only made things worse. She lost thousands of followers overnight. Eventually, her accounts went dark, and for the first time in our lives, I was the one still standing when the spotlight shut off. You'd think that would feel like justice. Like relief. But if I'm being honest, it just felt quiet. Quiet in the way grief is quiet, because what no one tells you about calling someone out, especially someone you once loved, is that the silence afterward doesn't sound like victory. It sounds like loss. A different kind of mourning, not for the person they were, but for the version of you who still wanted to believe in them. I didn't miss her lies, but I missed the cousin I thought I had when we were 8 years old. Building blanket forts in her living room, pretending to be mermaids. That version of her is gone, and so is the version of me who used to protect her. 2 weeks after the birthday party, my phone stopped buzzing. The hate comments dwindled. The reposts slowed, even the tags on Twitter faded into background noise. It was like the internet had moved on, as it always does, hungry for the next scandal, the next betrayal, the next fake influencer or exposed villain. And Alana. She vanished like a puff of smoke. Her accounts were gone. Her phone number no longer worked. Her mother, Aunt Marlene, answered my texts with vague lines like, "She's resting," and "We're trying to get her the help she needs." Help, that word sat heavy on my chest. It wasn't the first time someone had said Alana needed help. In college, she claimed she was too depressed to finish finals and guilt professors into extensions she didn't use. In her early 20s, when she spent half her paycheck on designer bags and called it retail therapy, her mom said it was a cry for help. But every time, someone cleaned up the mess, and every time, she got away with it. Not this time. This time, she burned the stage herself, and the audience left with ashes in their hands. And still, somewhere deep in me, I wondered if I'd gone too far. That's what being gaslit your whole life does to you. You can have every receipt, every screenshot, every lie cracked wide open, and still, part of you will ache with guilt. I didn't want her to suffer. I wanted her to stop making me suffer. I wanted peace, but peace didn't come easy, not with the way my family responded. It started with the phone call. "Hello, Tessa, it's your mother." My stomach dropped. Her voice was tight, controlled, too calm. "I just got off the phone with Marlene. She said Alana's been staying with a friend, barely eating." "She's not the victim," I said quickly. I didn't say she was. She didn't need to. It was in her tone. "She lied," I added. "To all of us. For money. For attention. For I know what she did." Her voice cracked just slightly, "But she's still family." That phrase, "still family." As if that made it better. As if blood meant immunity. As if I hadn't been family every time they looked past me to watch Alana spin her next dazzling little tragedy. "Did you call her out?" I asked. "Did you ask her why she did it?" My mom didn't answer, just sighed. Long and tired. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You embarrassed her." I laughed. Sharp. Bitter. She embarrassed herself. You read her private email in front of strangers. She scammed people. I'm not saying what she did was right, Tessa. But your reaction, my reaction. And just like that, I felt the old heat rise up in my chest. That childhood burn of being told I was too sensitive whenever I cried, too angry. When I finally snapped, "I covered for her my entire life," I said, voice shaking. "You don't get to call this the problem now." Silence. Then, softly, "We're all worried about her." Then maybe you should have been worried about me when she announced my miscarriage to a room full of people. Or when she told Grandma I was an alcoholic. Or when I didn't know about all that. You didn't want to know. And I hung up. I stood in my kitchen for a full minute after, holding the phone in my hand, fingers numb. Then I set it down, walked to the sink, and turned on the tap just to hear something that wasn't my mother's voice echoing in my head. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, letting the water run, cold against my fingertips. And that's when I knew I needed to do something more. Not about Alana, about me. That weekend, I booked a cabin. Just me, my laptop, and a single goal: take my life. Back. I drove 2 hours east to a quiet little town no one knew me in, where the trees were tall enough to block out cell towers and the Wi-Fi was laughably bad. The kind of place where the stars came out early and the silence wasn't awkward, it was necessary. I spent 3 days there. No makeup. No news alerts. No family group texts, just me, staring at a blank document on my screen. And then I started typing. the truth, not just about Alana, about everything, about growing up in her shadow, about swallowing disappointment until it rotted me from the inside, about learning to doubt my instincts because someone prettier, louder, shinier convinced everyone I was just bitter. I wrote about the baby I lost, the nights I couldn't sleep, the moments I almost believed maybe I was the jealous cousin after all. I wrote about the quiet, the silence, the ache of being overlooked by people who were supposed to love you first. It poured out like a confession I didn't know I needed, and when I was done, I didn't send it to a publisher. I posted it on Medium.no ads. No flashy graphics, just a simple title, When Your Family Chooses the Liar. I attached no photos, just my name, my words, and then I went to sleep. When I woke up 12 hours later, it had 47,000 views. By the next day, it had over 300,000. People emailed me from everywhere. Some told me I was brave. Others told me I described their exact childhood. I had an Alana, they'd write. Thank you for helping me see it wasn't my fault. I didn't realize how many of us were out there, quiet girls in the corners, dutiful cousins and sisters and daughters who learned to disappear so someone else could sparkle. They shared stories, photos, screenshots of their own Alanas. And not one of them asked me why I didn't stay quiet. That's how I knew I was healing, because the world made space for my voice, and not because I begged for it, but because I stopped apologizing for using it. It's funny what happens when you stop bending. People start adjusting around you. My boss emailed me and said she'd read the article. Take the rest of the week, she wrote. You deserve space. My best friend, Lila, drove 2 hours to take me to dinner and said nothing the whole car ride except, you didn't do anything wrong. Even my therapist cried. I don't usually say this, she told me after reading my piece, but you needed to say it. Not just for you. For the women who haven't yet. And for the first time in my life, I believed her. 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, real paper, real envelope. My name written in familiar cursive. No return address. I opened it on my porch, sun warming my knees, Oliver curled by my feet. It was from Alana. No, dear Tessa. No, I'm sorry. Just a few lines. You always were the one who wanted things to be quiet. Now you got what you wanted. Hope it's everything you dreamed of. I stared at it for a long time. Then I ripped it in half. Because she was wrong. I didn't want quiet. I wanted truth. I wanted the noise to finally match the damage. And now, it finally did. After the Medium article exploded, the world finally got quiet in the right way. Not silent, just balanced. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like I was carrying someone else's chaos in my chest. No more emergency texts from Alana. No cryptic messages from Aunt Marlene. No posts from distant cousins tagged with #PrayForLana. They vanished. And yet, I still checked her old Instagram once a day. Even though it was gone. I don't know why. Maybe because part of me expected her to pop back up. Like a horror movie villain with a fresh wig and a new story. But for almost a month, nothing happened. Until the letter from the attorney showed up. It was beige. Official looking. Thick paper that smelled like toner and anxiety. It was addressed to me, but the sender, Marlene Dawson, represented by Kravitz and Bellman, PLC. First, I thought maybe they were suing me for defamation. But the minute I opened the envelope, I realized this was something worse. A guilt letter, written by a lawyer, not to press charges, but to warn me. It read, Dear Ms. Price, on behalf of my client, Ms. Marlene Dawson, we request that you cease and desist any further publication, comment, or implication involving Ms. Alana Dawson's medical history, mental state, or personal financial activity. While no formal legal action is currently being taken, continued public discussion may result in defamation proceedings or emotional distress claims. I snorted. Not because it was funny, but because of the audacity. I reread the letter 3 times, then placed it on my kitchen table next to the empty coffee mug that had do no harm, but take NOSH*T. Etched in gold script across the front. I picked up my phone. Called Becca. Did you get a letter? I asked. Oh yeah, she said without skipping a beat. Came yesterday. Almost laughed myself into a coma. My lawyer friend framed hers. You should too. We sat in silence for a second. Then I asked, do you think she's actually planning to sue us? No, Becca said. She's trying to scare you into shutting up. Which, honestly, proves she hasn't changed a bit. I nodded, but I didn't feel brave. I felt tired, because if Alana wasn't going to take accountability, she was going to play the only card she had left, victim of the mean cousin who ruined her life, and apparently, now I was also her legal bully. It made me sick. I didn't reply to the letter, but I scanned it, saved it in a file marked just in case, and moved on. Or tried to. A week later, I ran into my uncle at a gas station. It felt surreal, him, in a tattered flannel and cargo shorts, reaching for the same bag of trail mix I was already holding. He blinked like he was seeing a ghost. I almost turned around, but instead, I nodded politely. He cleared his throat. Saw the thing you wrote, he said finally. I raised an eyebrow. Did you read it? He hesitated, skimmed. Of course he had. Typical. You were always the quiet one, he added, almost wistfully. Didn't think you had that much to say. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Then he said something that chilled me to the bone. She's not doing well, you know. I paused, physically. He shrugged, mentally, financially. She lost everything. Sponsors, friends. She's not even talking to her mom anymore. I stared at him, then said the first honest thing that came to mind. She lost everything because she built everything on a lie. He looked down at the trail mix. You could have just talked to her, Tessa. Privately. Not, lit her on fire. I tried, I snapped. For years. And she set herself on fire. I just stopped putting it out. He didn't say anything else, just took a bottle of Diet Coke and walked away, and I realized something then. The real reason Alana was unraveling wasn't just because I exposed her. It was because, for the first time, no one was cleaning up the mess. Not me. Not Aunt Marlene. Not her army of wellness followers. She was alone, and it terrified her. I got my second sign of her slipping through the cracks 2 days later, this time from someone I hadn't expected. Marcus. Yeah, that Marcus. The guy I dated casually for 3 months before the birthday party chaos. The one I'd brought to her party for emotional backup. He texted me out of nowhere. Hey, weird question, but did you know Alana's been messaging people pretending to be you? My blood ran cold. I called him immediately. What do you mean pretending to be me? He sighed. Got a message from a random account yesterday. Had your name on it. Same profile pic you used a while ago. Said it was your backup account. Then started asking me about the party. About what I'd seen. About whether I thought she was really faking. I clenched my jaw. She's impersonating me now? She deleted it after I called her out. But yeah, it's her. Has to be. I thanked him, hung up, and sat on the edge of my bed staring at the floor. She wasn't just desperate, she was unraveling, and desperation is dangerous. I filed a report with Instagram, with my lawyer, even with my company's HR department, just in case. I wrote it all down, timelines, messages, screenshots, previous threats. And I realized as I compiled everything that this wasn't just about a lie anymore. It was about a pattern. Of manipulation. Of emotional theft. Of psychological warfare disguised as drama. And the only way to stop it now was to be 2 steps ahead of it. So I started documenting again. Every message, every whisper, every time someone told me she mentioned you in a story or she tagged you before deleting it. I kept records, because I knew her next move wasn't going to be a grand comeback. It was going to be something quieter, something sneakier. A story about how she was recovering from betrayal. A vague quote about being wronged by the ones you love. A gentle return to the spotlight with enough sadness to make people forget why they stopped clapping in the first place. She'd do it in soft colors. In whispery tones. Maybe from a different account. Maybe under a new name, but she'd try. I knew she would, and when she did, I'd be ready, because now I wasn't playing defense anymore. I wasn't just cleaning up after her. I was watching, closely. And I wasn't afraid to turn the lights on again. It happened on a Wednesday, just another ordinary midweek, right in the heart of spring. I was sitting at my desk at the agency, sipping lukewarm coffee, pretending to be deeply focused on redesigning a client's logo while silently scrolling through Slack updates, and then my phone buzzed. Once, twice. Then a stream of notifications flooded the screen so fast it felt like watching rain hit a window. Text from Lila. Holy hell. Have you seen this? DM from Becca. Your girl's back. And it's wild. A screenshot from Marcus followed a few seconds later, no message included. Just an image of Alana's new Instagram post, this time from a brand new account. At Alana still standing, of course, she'd name it that. I opened the post with a mix of dread and dark curiosity. Like, peeling back a bandage you know will hurt. It was a video, set to soft piano music. Alana sat on a window seat, wrapped in a gray cashmere blanket, hair loose around her face in just the right amount of dishevelment to look tragic. But still gorgeous. She stared into the camera for a full 5 seconds before speaking. I wasn't going to come back, she said, voice low, trembling. Not after what happened. Not after what they did to me. I could feel my blood pressure spike. She repeated, letting it hang in the air. They made me into a monster. They said I lied. That I faked it all. That I was just a drama queen who wanted money. Cue the dramatic pause. I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD, she continued. It explains so much of what I've gone through. The dissociation. The memory lapses. The desperate need to feel seen. I wasn't lying. I was sick. But no one wanted to hear that. Especially not the people who claimed to love me. My chest tightened. She was reframing the entire story, turning it into trauma. Into misunderstood suffering. And worse, into a quiet, manipulative kind of martyrdom. I didn't scam anyone, she said softly. I just needed help. And instead of getting it, I was humiliated. Exposed. By my own cousin. She didn't say my name, but she didn't need to. Her tone said everything. She made the world turn against me, she said, wiping a single tear. But I forgive her. I do. Because I know she's hurting too. Hurt people, right? The screen faded to black, then words appeared. To those who still believe in me. Thank you. I'm not going anywhere. Hashtag healing not hate. Hashtag still here. Hashtag PTSD recovery. By the time I finished watching, the post had over 19,000 likes and 3,000 comments. People were calling her brave again. The same names I remembered from the GoFundMe comments were back, praising her vulnerability and calling me cruel and dangerous. Some even started reposting her video with messages like, "This is what cancel culture does. We need to do better." I felt sick and angrier than I had in months, because she wasn't just rewriting the story, she was rewriting me. The next few days were a tornado. I got DMs from strangers demanding to know if I really doctored that email. A former client of mine tagged me in a comment asking if I was just bitter and riding the hate wave. I even got a voicemail from a blocked number that said, "You ruined a woman's life because you were jealous of her beauty. You should be ashamed." Ashamed.me. Meanwhile, Alana's new page gained 50,000 followers in 4 days. She started posting daily healing updates, shots of herbal tea, inspirational quotes about forgiveness, vague poetry about broken glass and blooming again. But the part that hit me hardest, she went back on GoFundMe, under a new campaign, Alana's Mental Health Fund, PTSD treatment plus legal fees. I stared at the page for a full 10 minutes before I realized I was shaking. She'd learned nothing. Or maybe she had. Maybe she'd learned exactly how far she could bend the truth before people stopped asking questions. And this time, she wasn't pretending to die. She was pretending to recover, which was harder to fight, harder to disprove, harder to unravel. But not impossible. I made a decision that night. No more half-measures. No more waiting for her to trip. I'd stayed silent long enough. So I sat down, logged in, and uploaded everything. The emails, the screenshots, the timeline, even the footage Becca had recorded that day after the birthday party. A full 9-minute clip where I laid out the facts, start to finish, with actual evidence. Then I attached a short message. I wasn't going to respond. But the truth matters more than my comfort. This is what actually happened. This is the full story. I didn't post it to Medium this time. I posted it to YouTube, under my name. myface.no filters. No edits. Just me. The views exploded. In 48 hours, it hit 600,000. Within a week, it was over 1.2 million. Comments flooded in. This is the clarity we needed. I believed her. And now I feel gross. That email? That letter from her lawyer? Holy hell. And for the first time, the tide turned. People stopped reposting her quotes, stopped commenting prayers. Some even started asking GoFundMe to suspend her new fundraiser, because now they saw the pattern, not just a one-time mistake, but a calculated cycle of attention of manipulation of monetized sympathy. And even though she tried to play the mental health card, people knew mental illness doesn't justify fraud, especially not repeated, strategic fraud. Alana went silent again. No posts. No stories. No more vague poems. And then one day, the GoFundMe disappeared. Not just paused, gone. So did the Instagram, and her new podcast, and her wellness warrior merchandise site, all vanished. Like she'd been wiped off the internet. It was over. Or as close to over as it was ever going to be. And for the first time, I didn't feel triumph. I felt peace. Because this time, I didn't lose. This time, I wasn't erased. This time, I told my own story, and people believed me. I didn't need applause. I didn't need revenge. I just needed someone to say, I see you. And they did. 3 weeks later, I got an email from Alana. No lawyers. No drama. Just her. It read, I guess you won. I hope it was worth it. You ruined me. And I stared at those 3 sentences for a long time before replying. Then I wrote, No, Alana, you ruined you. I just stopped protecting the lie. I never heard back, and I didn't need to, because she wasn't the main character anymore. I was. By the time summer rolled around, it was like someone had taken an eraser to Alana's entire digital existence. No posts. No backup accounts. No blog. No podcast. No Etsy store. No wish lists. The wellness influencers she used to hang out with had scrubbed her from their feeds. A few of them even posted vague disclaimers about learning to vet our collaborators more thoroughly and how betrayal can happen even in healing spaces. One woman, a popular mental health advocate with nearly 500,000 followers, actually tagged me. She wrote, Thank you to @TessaSaid for reminding us that advocacy without accountability is just performance. I stared at that tag for a long time, then screenshotted it, saved it, not for the praise, but for the evidence. Evidence that maybe, just maybe, the world had finally started to see the difference between pain and manipulation, between real vulnerability and calculated sympathy, between truth and Alana. She didn't disappear entirely, of course. People like Alana never vanish completely. They morph. I heard whispers. Through a friend of a friend, I found out she'd taken a job at a boutique spa about 3 towns over. She wasn't using her real name. She was going by Lonnie. Said she was stepping back from public life to focus on her trauma healing. It wasn't technically lying. It just wasn't honest either. She was working front desk and selling herbal tinctures to suburban moms who didn't know or didn't care what she'd done. One client posted a story tagging the spa, and I recognized her instantly in the background, stocking shelves in a pale blue tunic and soft smile like none of it had ever happened. Like she'd reset the game, and I thought, for a brief second, about calling the spa, about sending them links. Screenshots. The YouTube video, but I didn't. Not because I wanted to protect her, because I was done cleaning up after her either way. She didn't deserve my energy. Not anymore. But while Alana tried to quietly rewrite herself, I was learning to finally live out loud. The Medium piece had opened doors I didn't expect. A podcast reached out. Then a digital magazine. Then a women's mental health collective asking if I'd speak at one of their events, just a 15-minute slot, on narrative control after familial betrayal. I almost said no. Imposter syndrome came knocking immediately. Who was I to talk about healing? But then I remembered. I wasn't telling anyone else's story. I was telling mine. So I said yes, and then I kept saying yes. More talks. More panels. More messages from women who said things like, "You gave me the language for what happened to me." I started writing again, not just personal essays, but fiction too, stories with women who set boundaries and held them, characters who didn't flinch when someone asked them to make themselves smaller for someone else's comfort. The first time I wrote a scene like that, I cried, not because it was sad, because it was possible. My parents never apologized. I didn't expect them to, but they changed in their own small ways. My mom started texting more, small things like, thinking of you and loved your last piece. My dad even subscribed to my newsletter. He doesn't say much. Just forwards the emails to his coworkers and replies with thumbs up emojis. It's not perfect. It's not even a real reckoning, but it's a start, and sometimes that's enough. The biggest change came quietly on a Tuesday morning. While I was brushing my teeth. I looked at myself in the mirror and realized something strange. I didn't feel ashamed anymore. Of my voice. Of my anger. Of how long it took me to stop being the one who made peace at the cost of my own. That day, I packed up a box of old journals. Letters from Alana. Birthday cards where she signed, "Your favorite cousin forever." I put them in the back of the closet, not to hide them, but because I didn't need them out anymore. They didn't hurt me like they used to. They were just paper, and I had new pages now, pages I'd written myself. I ran into Aunt Marlene one afternoon in the frozen aisle of the grocery store. It was almost cinematic. We were both reaching for the same box of plant-based lasagna. She froze. So did I. Her hand hovered, fingers trembling slightly. Then she said, "Tessa." Just my name, like it was a question and an accusation and a prayer all at once. I nodded. "Hi, Aunt Marlene." She didn't smile, but she didn't look angry either. Mostly, she just looked tired. "I thought about writing you," she said. "A few times." "I know." She looked down at the box in her hand. "She's not well," she said softly. "Still thinks she did nothing wrong." I nodded again. She didn't ask me for forgiveness. She didn't tell me I should have handled things differently. She didn't defend Alana. Instead, she whispered, "I wish I'd seen it sooner." And that almost made me cry, because it was the first real thing she'd said to me in years. We stood there for another moment. Then she added, "I'm glad you told the truth," and walked away. Not long after, I closed my Instagram for good, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't need it anymore. The likes, the validation, the constant buzz. I wasn't performing my life for an audience anymore. I was living it. Real friends still texted, readers still subscribed, people who mattered still found me, and the silence I used to fear. Now it felt like freedom. It's been almost a year now since that party, since I stood in front of a room full of strangers and read a lie out loud. Since the curtain finally dropped on the girl who'd spent her whole life choreographing tragedies to keep the spotlight on her face. I don't know if Alana will ever tell the truth. I don't think she knows how, but I do, and I'll keep telling it. Not just for me, but for every woman who was told to be quiet so someone else could cry louder, for every good daughter who swallowed rage, for every sister who played nice, for every cousin who let themselves be erased. I'm not erased anymore. I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere. There's a strange peace that settles over your life when you finally accept that an apology isn't coming. It's like walking through the wreckage of a house that burned down and realizing the silence isn't asking you to rebuild it. It's inviting you to leave it behind. That's where I am now. Not angry, not broken, just released. The funny thing about being lied to for years, especially by someone you loved, is that the healing doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens in tiny, quiet ones, like the morning I cleaned out the medicine cabinet and found the box of Band-Aids Alana used in her chemo injection photos. I didn't cry. I just laughed once, tossed them in the trash, and moved on. Or the first time I walked past a woman in Whole Foods with a pink Lupus Warrior tote bag and didn't flinch. I don't live in her shadow anymore, not even a little, and the version of me who did. She's gone too. I started dating again, not because I needed someone to fill a space, but because I finally had space that was mine to give. There's a man named Jordan. He's not flashy, doesn't wear designer anything, works as a mechanical engineer and can fix basically anything in my apartment with a roll of duct tape and a dad joke. He reads my essays, sends me articles he thinks I'll like. Once, after reading the Medium piece, he looked at me for a long time and said, "You deserved better. But you also became better." I think that's the closest anyone's come to understanding it, not just the pain, but the growth inside of it, because I didn't just survive the fallout of Alana's lies. I evolved. She played sick to steal attention. I told the truth and reclaimed my identity. She wanted sympathy. I found strength. And no amount of followers or staged photos or GoFundMe dollars can manufacture that kind of growth. It has to be earned. In blood and grief and rage and, eventually, forgiveness. Not of myself, for taking so long to stop shrinking. Some people still ask about her, not often. Not anymore. But occasionally, someone will recognize my name from the article or the video and lean in, whispering like we're in church. Was she really faking the whole thing? And I always give the same answer. She was faking the symptoms. But the attention addiction? That was very real. They usually nod, because they've known someone like her too. That's the thing. Alana wasn't just my story. She was everybody's. Everybody knows a person like that. The manipulator who wraps their damage in sparkle. The emotional vampire who drinks the light out of every room. The person who weaponizes pain, real or not, to control the narrative. I didn't just expose my Alana. I put a spotlight on a type of woman we've all been told to tiptoe around. And now, nobody's tiptoeing. I get emails from strangers sometimes, from women in Brazil, in Germany, in Ohio, in Texas. They say things like, I finally cut ties with my sister. I told my mom what my cousin did to me. I reported my old roommate for scamming people with fake fundraisers. And my favorite, you made me realize I'm not crazy, just gaslit. Every time I read one, I feel that knot in my chest loosen just a little more. It reminds me that speaking up wasn't about revenge. It was about resonance, and that's worth every single ounce of backlash I ever faced. Because there's nothing more powerful than a woman finally believing her own memory. As for my family, we're different now. Some relationships healed, some didn't. Aunt Marlene never tried to justify Alana's actions again. She still avoids family gatherings, but she sends a Christmas card now signed only Marlene. No mention of her daughter. My mom's trying. In her own way, she asks questions now instead of assuming I'll smile and absorb the dysfunction. We still clash sometimes. She still thinks I was harsh with the public exposure. But she doesn't ask me to be quiet anymore, and that's progress. I don't want perfect. I just want real. There are still scars, still moments I replay in my head, still nights I wake up with echoes of her voice in my ear, sweet and sinister. I just needed to be seen. I believe that. I do, but there's a difference between wanting to be seen and stealing the spotlight. Alana never learned that. She probably never will. Last I heard, she was still working at that spa. Still blending tea for stress relief and hawking rose quartz rollers as trauma tools. Maybe she really believes the new version of her story. Maybe she thinks PTSD is an umbrella big enough to cover deceit. But I'm done watching her rewrite the narrative. I told mine, and I left it open on the table for anyone who needed it.no edits.no embellishments.no filters. Just truth. I still keep that ripped lawyer letter in a drawer, not out of spite, but as a reminder that silence is sometimes the sharpest weapon people will use against you. And that choosing not to stay silent, it's an act of rebellion and of love. Love for yourself. Love for the little girl you used to be. Love for the future woman you're still becoming. If you're still listening, if you've made it this far, then maybe this story was meant for you too. Maybe you've been the quiet one. The peacemaker. The shadow in someone else's spotlight. Maybe you've spent years apologizing for truths you barely dared to whisper. Let me tell you something. You're not bitter. You're not cruel. You're not wrong. You're just finally awake. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. So stand up. Speak. You don't need a stage. You just need the courage to light a match. Let the ones who lied choke on the smoke. Let the ones who gaslit you blink when the lights come on. Let them scatter. You don't owe them a thing. Not your silence. Not your forgiveness. Not your softness, especially not your silence, because your story, it matters, and it's time to tell it, loudly, unapologetically, and on your own terms. I did. And I'm never going back.